The following is a testimony from Detective Lieutenant Sam Marsban in the Jennifer Crumbley involuntary manslaughter trial. This detective was involved with the search of a school for about an hour, and then his primary focus became getting a search warrant for their home. And upon doing so, he then had interactions with James and Jennifer Crumbley. So let's listen.
Okay. In a typical homicide case, do you seize the parents' phones?
If I determine that there's relevant information to the homicide investigation, yes.
Okay. Can you tell the jury why you thought, I assume, were their phones, did you think they were relevant to the investigation?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury why?
Based on the information I learned at the school, I learned that a parent had been there earlier in the day with the shooter regarding drawings that were made on an assignment that were disturbing. Also, I had observed the shooter's phone that had messages that were related to the shooting.
And was there a particular message on that screenshot that made you want to search the phone?
Yes.
What was it?
Ethan, don't do it.
And who sent that text?
Mom,
Okay.
Jennifer Crumbley.
All right. Can you explain what happened when Jennifer and James Crumbley returned to the home?
The search was still ongoing by detectives, so I had them sit in the front living room when they came in. I explained to them the process. James had asked for an itemized list of the items that were taken out of the home, and I explained to them that we have a copy of the search warrant, the court order authorizing what we were taking, and then we leave tabulations, basically a receipt, just documenting what items that we had taken. I instructed them that I did need both of their cell phones.
And then how did Jennifer react to that?
She was not happy about that.
Okay, when you say she wasn't happy, what do you mean? Describe what that means.
She did not want to give me her phone. She seemed irritated about it initially. She was not turning it over promptly.
Did she say, I'm not giving it to you, or I don't want to give it to you, or did she say anything?
I don't remember the exact language, but I believe it was that she did not want to give it to me.
Okay. Then what happened?
I explained to her that it's part of the court order, part of the search warrant, and it was necessary that we collect the cell phone. That's when James interrupted and basically explained to her he's going to get that cell phone one way or another. Might as well just turn it over to him. And then she did turn it over.
And when you say she turned it over, what does that mean? She gave it to you?
She handed it to me.
Okay. And what did you do next?
She was concerned about having phone numbers for family members. I allowed her to, I took a sheet of paper and I allowed her to write down necessary phone numbers out of her phone, and then
I want to back up a bit. How did you get into the phone? Was there
gave me a password.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm going to make a clear record. Was it password protected?
I believe it was, yes.
Okay, and how did you get the password?
She provided the password to me.
And can you tell the jury what that exchange was like?
Again, she did not want to give the password. We have the capabilities, obviously, with our computer crimes unit. When we have a search warrant, we can bypass the security.
Did you explain that to her?
I believe I did.
Okay. And did you tell her that that's what you were going to do if she didn't give the password?
Yes.
Okay. So did she finally give it to you?
Yes.
All right. And then you said you allowed her to write down some things. What did she write down?
She wrote down some phone numbers from contacts out of her phone.
All right. And did you instruct the defendants to do anything after you seized their phones?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what that was?
I told them they needed to contact them. They needed to get. She was concerned about being able to call people, so I instructed her she could go get a replacement, basically a prepaid phone from a local store, and that it was important that we had that number, that she was to contact either myself or Sergeant Joe Bryan.
Did you ask her to do that in a timely way, or did you not mention when they should provide that?
I don't recall specific language, but I believe it was important that we had that number that night. I don't remember what my wording was, but I would say timely, yes.
Okay. Are you aware if they did provide those new phone numbers?
They did not provide it to me. I don't know if they provided it to Sergeant Bryan or not.
Okay. What is the protocol when you seize a phone and there's a search warrant to search the information on a phone?
First thing I do is I put it into airplane mode. That way it cannot be remotely wiped. So once we put it in airplane mode, it's basically, again, a preservation to prevent the destruction of information on that phone.
Okay. The exchange about the seizing of the phones, what did you say in response to that resistance, if anything?
I believe I just explained it wasn't an option not to take the phone. It was a court order. And I was trying to be professional about it and say we're going to take the phone, and I didn't want her to try and resist us taking the phone.
Was there any discussion about the students who were injured or killed in that school by the defendant?
Not by the defendant, no.
Did you say anything about that?
Yes.
What did you say?
I could tell she was kind of frustrated about the situation, the phone, things like that, and I explained to her.
Your objection to hearsay as to what this officer said.
His statements are what is the objection?
About what she said to your client, what he said to your client?
About what he said to my client. My client's statements are clearly not hearsay. I'm objecting to what he said to my client as hearsay.
He's the declarant. It's not an out of court statement. He's the actual person testifying. And additionally, this is giving context to the exchange at the house with the defendant.
Your Honor, there is no I said it exception to hearsay, so even though he's the declarant, there's no I said it exception where he can still testify to hearsay.
That's true.
Your Honor, I believe that his statements about what he did during the investigation, which I've elicited several times while he's been on the stand, are relevant to show what he did and why he did it.
Just because there have been things that I have not objected to doesn't mean that I couldn't have objected to. But I'm objecting at this point. It's not legally correct.
Okay, so I guess one question is whether they're being offered for the truth of the matter asserted.
If they are, can I respond to that?
Yeah, well, let me back up a little bit. Mrs. Crumbley did not ask you a question about that, about what happened, if there are fatalities at the school.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
His statement to Mrs. Crumbley about what happened at the school is not being offered to prove what happened at the school. We've proven that 100 different ways, unfortunately. It's being offered to show what he did and the response of the defendant.
Yeah, I'm going to allow it. It's not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted, right?
Thank you.
Okay.
What did you say to the defendant?
I told her that there were several dead kids and kids that were shot in the school, and this was significant incidents, and it was already on the national news, and even the president had addressed it.
How did you know that?
From seeing the news cameras outside and speaking to other people on scene.
All right. Was Jennifer Crumbley crying?
No.
Was Jennifer Crumbley, what were her mannerisms or gestures at that point?
She seemed irritated and frustrated. I remember taking notes down, and she made a statement to me saying that lives were lost today and he's going to have to suffer. And I found that odd, the way she said it.
Why?
Because she was referring to a person that was her son. Again, I've been involved in multiple homicide investigations where I've talked to relatives and parents that their children had taken lives, and normally it was...
Your Honor, I'm objecting to the relevance of what other people have said. Obviously, her statement is allowed. The detective testified to what she said, but drawing conclusions about what she was thinking as she said it is speculation.
Response?
He's not drawing conclusions about what she was thinking. He's drawing conclusions about what he was thinking. He said he found it odd, and I'm asking him why. And I think in the course of this investigation, an officer's perceptions about the defendant's statements and they're being odd compared to what he sees in over 100 different homicide investigations are absolutely relevant. In addition, we are proving our burden, as the court instructed the jury, is to prove gross negligence and what a person using ordinary care would have to do to prevent injury or death to somebody else. And her statements and how they compare to any person, reasonable, ordinary person, are definitely relevant.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I have to continue. I have to argue based on this argument. This detective, who is very experienced, has never investigated a mass shooting at a school. So he does not have awareness of how parents of mass shooters typically respond, because this is a first.
I don't think he said that. I think he has interviewed or had contact with parents whose children have killed people before. So to the extent that you're speculating about, you hadn't met her before this, right?
Correct, Judge.
So, okay, so you can't speculate about what she's thinking, how she's feeling, how she would normally respond. Okay, there's some people that, when someone falls, they laugh, which might seem inappropriate, but that's how that person is, right? But you can testify about your experience, why you thought it was odd based on your experience in interacting with other parents who had children who had killed people.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. All right.
Can you continue with why you felt it was odd? Can you tell the jury?
Yes, the language of suffer struck me as odd. Most of my experience as well, even...
I want to stop you. What do you mean suffer? Explain to me what you mean the language of suffer.
said he's going to have to suffer.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Most of my experience as well, there's going to be consequences, or we understand the severity of the situation. That the choice of words "suffer" was odd to me.
Okay. All right. Nothing further.
Thank you. Detective, when you testified about the giving Mrs. Crumbley the search warrant for the phone, it's fair to say, at least to your knowledge, Mrs. Crumbley has never had a search warrant to take her phone away from her, correct?
I don't have any knowledge of that.
And when she was expressing concerns to you about not having her cell phone, one of those concerns was that she would not have phone numbers to people on her contact list. Is that true?
Yes, that's why I allowed her to copy her contact list.
She also expressed concern that if she didn't have her phone, she would have no way to call people. I guess what I'm saying is that was the only phone of Mrs. Crumbley that you were taking with the search warrant, correct?
I'm sorry, you said that was the only phone?
You took one phone for Mrs. Crumbley.
Yes.
You don't believe she had other cell phones at that time?
I did. I would not know if she did or not.
So when you were taking that cell phone, if that was her only phone, it would be fair to say she wouldn't have a phone to use after that.
Yes, that's why I suggested she go purchase another phone from a store that was open.
You suggested she go and purchase what some people refer to as burner phones or track phones?
A prepaid phone, yes.
So you can go to a store, buy a prepaid phone, and it'll have a different phone number, correct?
Yes.
And you advised the Crumbleys, in order to have phones, go ahead and buy these phones.
I suggested, yes, you should buy another phone and provide that number to us.
You did allow Mrs. Crumbley to sit down and write contact numbers out so that she could put them in whatever phone she bought?
Yes.
And you're aware that by that night, the Crumbleys did purchase track phones? And if you're not aware, just let me know.
I learned later in the investigation, but I wasn't involved in that part of it.
Okay, fair enough. Again, very quickly, you had never met with or had any dealings with Mrs. Crumbley?
That's correct.
You have never seen her react to anything in life, a pet dying, a person dying, bad news about a job, anything like that.
My only encounter with her was at that house.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Nothing further. May this witness be excused.
You can step.
Thank you for watching, everyone. We're going to be on Verdict Watch this week, so please stay tuned. Hit that like button and subscribe so you'll be notified when I go live or upload another video.